Okay. Okay. Table. Okay. Okay. Thought it was five of us. I thought it was five of us. Oh. He texts Solomon. Normally he's here. There it is. No, I saw one. Yeah. On?
Okay,
Yeah.
we're about to get started so we can find our seats, silence our cell phones, take a hint. I'm doing that as well. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Thursday, the 17th day of October in the year 2024. This is a regular meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 6 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 6:03 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting? Councilperson Ridley. Make sure our mics are on.
Here.
Thank you. Councilperson Prinzary.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon is not here yet. Councilperson Gilmore is not here yet. Councilperson DeGise and Councilperson Rivera have back to school night, so they're probably going to miss a good portion of the meeting. They'll try to make it, but if they don't, they'll be absent for the entirety of the meeting. And Council President Waterman.
Yeah.
We have 5 members in attendance at 6:03 p.m. May we kindly rise for a moment of silence, please? I'd like to dedicate this moment of silence to Father Francis Schuller. Thank you very much. And I have Councilperson Solomon making his way to the dais at 6:05 p.m. So we now have 6 council members present at 6:05. On behalf of Council President Waterman and the members of the Municipal Council, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall. The annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2024, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, November 30th, 2023. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, October 11th, 2024 at 4:55 p.m. to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay. First order of business, we'll need to add item 10.53, resolution 24-777 to the agenda. This resolution is a resolution waiving the 20-day waiting period for ordinances 24-078 and ordinance 23-078.
Motion.
I have a motion made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second? Second by Councilperson Prinzary. Let's just make sure our mics are on because it's hard to hear. On the motion to add item 10.53, Resolution 24-777 to the agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 6-0 with council members Gilmore, DeGise, and Rivera absent. All right.
Motion to untable the.
Nope, not yet, not yet.
Okay, all right,
yet.
gotcha.
First, we're going to do our first reading ordinances. If you would allow me to read them into the record. Item 3.1, City Ordinance 24-089 is an ordinance authorizing the City of Jersey City as a tenant to extend for a 2-year lease with 18 Ash Street Realty as landlord for space located at 46 State Street in Jersey City. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 24-090 is an ordinance amending Chapter 84, Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis, Article 1, Plenary Retail Consumption and Distribution Licenses. Item 3.3, City Ordinance 24-091 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 131 Construction Codes, Uniform Construction Codes, adopting the updated Construction Site Safety Manual 2024 edition and requirements for standpipes incorporating the safety regulations contained therein by reference into Chapter 131. Item 3.4, City Ordinance 24-092 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-5, one-way streets to convert 12th Street between Monmouth Street and Cole Street into a one-way street in the eastbound direction. Item 3.5, City Ordinance 24-093 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-9, stop intersections to designate the intersection of Clinton Avenue and Sackett Street as a multi-way stop-controlled intersection. Item 3.6, City Ordinance 24-094 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-9, stop intersections to designate various downtown intersections as multi-way stop-controlled intersections. Item 3.7, City Ordinance 24-095 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-24.1, limited duration parking for 15-minute parking zones near Mallory and Roosevelt Avenue. Item 3.8, City Ordinance 24-096 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City Municipal Council adopted revised and updated fees for Chapter 345, the Land Development Ordinance related to zoning review applications and some applications for Planning and Zoning Board. And last but not least, item 3.9, City Ordinance 24-097 is a franchise ordinance granting permission to Jasco Management Corp. for a 5-foot, 5.5-inch by 23-foot, 5.5-inch ramp encroachment at Lot 20 in Block 20004, also known as 307 Pacific Avenue, into the right-of-way. Council members, I'm going to be taking a vote on items 3.1
Sean,
through 3.9.
Sean,
Yes.
I'd like to have 3.3 delayed
Carrie.
to a future meeting until we could sit down with them and discuss this. Most of the people in the Ward C area are tired of a lot of the construction and the change of hours. And I think that we have to sit down and meet and discuss this whole issue.
So,
Right.
Councilman Bajano, you would like to make a motion to withdraw item 3.3,
Right,
City Ordinance 24-091 from the agenda.
yes.
May I have a second?
Sure, second.
Seconded by Councilperson Solomon. On the motion to withdraw item 3.3, City Ordinance 24-091 from the agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye,
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
For me, I think just want to be very clear about the rules on Saturday construction before we advance this. So happy to withdraw and discuss in the next 2 weeks. Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Item 3.3, City Ordinance 091 has been withdrawn from the agenda by vote of 6-0 with council members Gilmore, DeGise, and Rivera absent. So council members are going to be taking a vote on items 3.1 through 3.9 with the exception of 3.3, which has been withdrawn for introduction. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye for introduction.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye for introduction.
Items 3.1 through 3.9, with the exception of 3.3, which has been withdrawn, are introduced 6-0 with council members Gilmore, DeGise, and Rivera absent. Hey, Council President, I believe you would like to make a motion to defer
Yes,
to
10.9.
10.9,
Yes.
which is Resolution 24-733, is a resolution recognizing September 21st as Global Cast Awareness Day in Jersey City. So the motion was made by Council President Waterman,
Second.
seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On a motion to defer to Resolution 24-733, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary, Councilperson Baggiano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0 with council members Gilmore, DeGise, and Rivera absent to defer to Resolution 24-733. Want to move right to the vote on Resolution 24-733, Council President?
Yes.
Okay, on voting on Resolution 24-733, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary,
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman.
Aye.
City Resolution 24-733 is approved 6-0 with council members Gilmore, DeGise, and Rivera absent.
I would like to take this opportunity to invite Ishan. Come on up, Ishan. Ishan was an intern in our office. And it was Ishan's effort to make sure that we recognize Cast Awareness Day. And he did a program on Cast Awareness Day on September the 21st. He partnered with ADWAN and the AIM Foundation to bring awareness to this, because when you start to understand what caste awareness is, it's a form of discrimination. And I was just pretty much honored that, you know, he brought this to my attention and he wanted to make sure he he make it aware to the public. So today, Sean, I really want to recognize you for your effort. Continue to do what you do. You're doing a great job. He gives so much back to the community. His parents should be proud of him. So today I wanted you to come and accept this resolution for a job well done. Well done, Ishan. Well done. So, Kiara, come on. Would you like to say something before we come down and take a Ishan, would you like to say something before we come down and take a picture with you?
You said, would I like to say something?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure. I guess really quickly. Well, first of all, I want to thank the city of Jersey City. I know it's a city that prides itself on its diversity and community. So I thought, what better place to hold a day like this? And I guess, you know, let's just get this done next year as well, right?
Yes, and you have a rep at one organization, an AIM organization. You would like to say something?
Sure,
If you could just identify yourself for the record, I'm sorry, for our court reporter.
sure. I am Milind Osarmol, Director of Ambedkar International Mission, abbreviated as AIM. So on behalf of Ambedkar International Mission, I would like to express deep gratitude to the City Council of Jersey City for supporting us in our continuous campaign of equality, and we look forward to our continued engagement in the future. Thank you for everything, and great job, Isham. We'll continue to read on this path. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a picture.
Thank you. Stay up there. They're going to take a picture, photo with you guys. Yeah. Oh, no. I won't.
Thank you. Maybe they're just doing a road trip.
Oh.
God.
Okay. All right.
Bless you.
Just,
Bless you.
well, God bless.
He needs it.
All right, on to our second reading ordinances. First, second reading ordinances, item 4.1, City Ordinance 24-078 is an ordinance amending Chapter 84, Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis to amend regulation of cannabis establishments and cannabis distributors. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. Just give me 1 second before, I want to make sure the camera is on you. Righty. And if you could just state your name for the record.
Danielle, Danielle, D'Adamo, D as in David, apostrophe, capital A, D as in David, AMO.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, council members and community members. I'm here to speak on the proposed ordinance 24-078, amending Chapter 84 regarding the regulation of cannabis establishments and distributors. While I understand the necessity of regulating the cannabis industry, I have concerns about important issues that this ordinance does not address. First, oversaturation. We have seen a rapid increase in cannabis dispensaries in our community, but this ordinance does not include any clear guidelines on preventing an oversaturation of these businesses in concentrated areas. This raises concerns about the balance of our local economy and the quality of life for residents. Second, proximity to schools. There are no provisions in this ordinance about how close these cannabis establishments can be to schools. This is a significant oversight, as the well-being of our children should always be a priority. We need regulations that consider appropriate distances between cannabis dispensaries and places where our children learn and play. Lastly, the ordinance lacks transparency in the approval process for these businesses. We need more clarity about how decisions are made and what criteria are being used. Additionally, the ordinance does not address sustainability practices for cannabis businesses. The implications for our environment, whether it's energy usage, waste disposal, or water consumption, must be considered as part of the conversation. I urge the council to revisit these key areas before moving forward with this ordinance to ensure the long-term well-being of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laverne with Washington. My concern is, what's the difference between the cannabis and the smoke shop? And I didn't know they have alcohol in them. I thought it was just the smoke. So can I get some clarity?
John. Kenny
Legal, yeah, John.
wants to know about the ordinance, the difference, because this is.
There should
says
not be any
smoke
alcohol
shop.
at any smoke shops or any of the cannabis consumption lounges. They're different.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a completely different license. They should not be all the same. One is selling cannabis, one is selling tobacco and other products, smoke
Oh,
shops.
tobacco and alcohol?
Yeah, they're not supposed to be selling no alcohol. It's just supposed to be smoke shop as tobacco and related products, no cannabis. Cannabis licenses for selling cannabis and alcohol is a completely different license as well. Should all be separate.
And unlike the lady before me, I was at church on MLK, and next to the church house of prayer, they opened a smoke shop. I'm going in the church, you in the church, you smelling the smoke. And I think it should be a regulation around the churches and the schools, and there was no warning. And these are up and down MLK Drive. And I think with our young kids out going to school and church, I think it's a disgrace in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laverne.
This is still a public hearing on ordinance 24-078. Any member of the public wishing to be heard?
Good evening, council members. My name is Osbert Orduña, spelling on the first name O-S-B as in boy, E-R-T, last name O-R-D-U-N-A. I'm here today as a representative for the Jersey City Coalition for Responsible Cannabis. We are against the passing of ordinance 24-078. Like the two previous speakers before me, we're very concerned about the oversaturation of dispensaries in Jersey City. You, the city council, have already approved 49 dispensaries in Jersey City. In addition to that, you have the total count of the dispensaries in your current pipeline is 70. This ordinance will allow for an additional 48 more dispensaries to potentially be licensed in Jersey City. That's 118 dispensaries in Jersey City. That is insane. The state of New Jersey currently has 177 dispensaries across the entire state, including the 16 that are open in Jersey City right now. You're trying to add 118 just to Jersey City. That's irresponsible, that's reckless, and that's going to create a market that is oversaturated, which means that workers are going to be the first ones to suffer. Because by passing this ordinance, you're going to ensure that the cannabis industry in Jersey City is a poverty industry where employees can only make minimum wage because the employers will not have the ability to pay anything but that because of the oversaturation of the market. I am the one and only unionized dispensary owner in Jersey City. I can tell you that no one else will become a unionized dispensary in Jersey City because even if they want to do it, they won't be able to afford to do it. It's reckless to oversaturate Jersey City with whether it's 70 dispensaries, 118 dispensaries, even the 49 that you've approved already is an astronomical number. When you look at Newark, for example, that's twice the size of Jersey City and only has 7. Think about that. Twice the size of Jersey City, they have 7 dispensaries. You guys have already approved 49. You're going to oversaturate and destroy the market. On top of that, what is that going to lead to? Businesses closing. I've had representatives from city agencies say, oh, that's the fair market economy. No, that's not. That's insanity. Creating a market to ensure that businesses fail will lead to people losing their jobs in Jersey City. It'll lead to unemployment. It'll lead to homelessness because that is the precursor to homelessness is unemployment. And it'll also lead to the destabilization of our communities because you'll have more boarded up and blighted storefronts, just like I passed on the way up here when I was coming up MLK, just like you see in other areas besides the downtown ward. Council members, you have a responsibility to do work on behalf of the entire city and all its residents and business owners, not just those that are here in the high-rise towers of downtown. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Before I ask for the next public speaker, I just want to recognize Councilperson Gilmore present at 6:21 PM. So we now have 7 council members present at 6:21. This is still a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name is Bill Lillis. I'm a resident of Jersey City. So in addition to the work for Jersey City Together, I'm also a certified prevention specialist working for the Partnership for Drug-Free New Jersey. So the concerns of the amount of marijuana being sold in my own city certainly is a concern. That for the first time in 20 years, getting on the PATH train to have someone vaping with a marijuana product on the PATH train. So that's an example of a norm that we've done great work to eliminate. You rarely see drinking on a PATH train. You rarely see smoking on a PATH train.
You have to stay on the subject of the ordinance.
So the ordinance is what I'm saying is what you're regulating, the importance of regulating this particular product is very important, both in terms of marijuana and what I'd ask you to do while you're looking at regulating the marijuana industry, don't let the alcohol industry off the hook. They are a industry that needs to be watched as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Rob
Hold on.
DePisa.
Hold on. What's your name?
Rob DePisa. D is in
Spell your-
David. I. P is in Peter. I. S is in Sam. A.
It's Rob, the first name, because I couldn't hear you.
Robert
Robert? And last name again?
DePisa. D is in David. I. P is in Peter. I. S is in Sam. A. I'm an attorney at the law firm Cole Schatz, and I represent applicants who received approval to operate a dispensary within Jersey City. I want the council to consider that these are small businesses. These are residents of your own community who have made a significant financial investment in the property that they chose to operate their business. And they chose that property with the understanding that it would be suitable for on-site consumption. In addition, many of them committed to a property that was large enough so that it could accommodate that use, with the understanding that they would eventually be able to apply and receive that approval. In fact, when these applicants applied to the CCB, their applications included a request for approval on on-site consumption, and they were instructed by the CCB to bifurcate and remove that request, otherwise it would not be approved, which many of them, in fact, all of them did, based on that recommendation. What I'm asking is that we just hit pause and we consider, you've heard a lot of people tonight with commentary about the ordinance. I'm not saying that restrictions shouldn't be put in place because they should. The only thing I'm asking is for the council to pause and make sure that when we do it, we get it right. I don't want us to be in a position where we put language through which necessarily hasn't been completely thought out. I think that no one has ever criticized anyone for taking their time and getting it right. An easy example is, the ordinance references playgrounds. What is a playground? Is that term defined anywhere? How do we determine what constitutes a playground? Is it hopscotch painted in pavement, or is it an actual structure? All that happens from confusing language and confusion is chaos. All I'm saying is listen to the people who have come up this evening. They have concerns. Let's pause. Let's take a look at the ordinance. Let's put restrictions in place, but let's just make sure that we get it right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's still a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium. State your name for the record and please spell it for me.
Hugh Giordano, H-U-G-H, Giordano, Giordano. Council President and Council. My name is Hugh Giordano. I'm a union representative for the UFCW The UFCW is a national labor union of 1.3 million hardworking people, and we're the official union under the AFL-CIO, which is very important to understand. We are, again, with the rest of the community here, worried about this ordinance, and I'm going to tell you why. As a union rep of 13 years who worked in this industry since day one to represent the workers in it from the medical to AU, and as a rep who's traveled around this country, I've seen Oklahoma, I've seen Oregon, I've seen Michigan, real life, real experience, real credibility. You're going to oversaturate. Oversaturation brings loss of jobs. Oversaturation makes these small business owners who are trying to open up a facility, they'll lose their business. That's not an MSO. The people that are going to come in and you know what? And I don't want to see head shaking because I've seen it. I've seen where they oversaturate a city and the big guys come in and buy everyone up and it becomes Walmart. This is real. And people have invested their life into this. On top of that, because we fight for high wages, not just a minimum wage 7-Eleven job, we always make sure that we get a living wage. It comes with health care, dental, vision, prescription, PTO, sick time. That's real. That's what creates economic stability within a community, especially where a community has been ravaged by the war on drugs. Another thing, having the only 8 consumption lounges, only people with deep pockets are going to be able to get that. Let's be serious. Are we for the working class? Are we for the working person who has a small business? Or are we for the out-of-state people from Illinois and California? You have a decision to make here. You know, oversaturation, the lack of consumption lounges for these small businesses. As a medical patient, I'm not going to go to a dispensary that does not have a lounge. I want to be able to consume my medicine safely. So we have to think about that. Having more lounges creates safe access for people to consume their medicine. The fact that we want to criminalize people on the street for smoking cannabis, for consuming cannabis, is a problem. That's going backwards. That's not equity. It's not justice. And I'm proud to stand up for that. We want to have safe access. We want to have stable jobs. We want to have careers in Jersey City. And we're going to make sure the UFCW will remember the votes. We will remember these days because years to come, there's going to be lots of failures. Thank you so much on behalf of the UFCW and the workers. Thank you.
Thank you. What was it?
This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 24-078. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Okay, give me 1 second. Motion to close the public hearing by Council President Waterman. Even though his mic is not on well, Councilperson Baggiano seconded it.
Turn it on.
On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 24-078, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0 to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 24-078 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent.
Sean,
Yes.
I want corporate counsel to explain this ordinance, then we're going to table it.
Sure, at Council President's request. So just to summarize some of the changes that were made, this was done between the council members, the Division of Planning, Division of Commerce to try to streamline the process. Obviously, the main changes we've talked about is putting on license caps for each different license. The 48 cap, just to clarify, it would not wind up to 118. the 48 would be subsumed. So the maximum it could be is the 67 or 68 that we already have. And then it would later on have to fall below 48 and 8 per ward in order for us to issue any additional Class 5 licenses. The other thing we did is remove the second appearance before the Cannabis Control Board. We tried to make it, give the CCB a little bit more control over their agenda and enumerate local licensing requirements, which were factors that they considered before. I was just trying to streamline the process a little bit, including taking planning mostly out of the process. The applicants could instead get a zoning determination letter instead of going before a full-blown planning board hearing, as long as they met the local licensing requirements. And they could get the zoning determination letter as long as they didn't need a variance. Also, the consumption lounges, we've talked about it, limited it to 6 for the entire city, 1 per ward, and also changed hours for the consumption lounge to 11 p.m. As opposed to staying open till 2 a.m. We did some other clarifying language, and then of course, just tried to set enrollment periods for when licenses would pop up so that the CCB could hear applicants as we had licenses available. So those are the big changes to it. The planning division wants us to move forward. We've made all the changes that we thought were appropriate in terms of what's going on with the state licensing as that continues to change, and we all continue to learn and evolve with the scheme. So that's the background as to all the changes made.
Go ahead, Sean.
So, council members, as discussed at the caucus and as our corporation counsel just read into the record, the amendments that we were looking to make on 24-078. The amendments, I believe, start on page 4.
Mhm.
And they're in red underlined, and they continue on page 5, 6, page 9, and that's where it ends. So would you like to take them? I'd like to make a motion to amend City Ordinance 24-078. All of the
Motion.
amendments in red and underlined.
Motion.
You made the motion, Councilperson Saleh?
Yes.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President Waterman. On the motion to amend City Ordinance 24-078 as spoken to, as read into the record by Corporation Counsel, and just for the record, Corporation Counsel, these amendments are not substantial changes, correct?
Correct, not substantial.
Okay, on that, on the amendment, on the motion to amend on City Ordinance 24-078, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
City Ordinance 24-078 is amended 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. I believe we're making a motion to table this ordinance.
Yep.
Motion.
Said they want a table.
Hold on. Motion to table ordinance 24-078. After the amendment, and we already conducted a public hearing on this. After the close of the public hearing and the amendment. Council, may I have a motion to table?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President Waterman. On the motion to table City Ordinance 24-078 after the close of the public hearing and the amendment, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
I'm going to vote aye. Let me just say three quick things, which is worth stating just for the record. So the first is just to clarify, we've had both emails from the public and speakers talk about the number of dispensaries allowed. It's my understanding, we clarified the language in this ordinance that basically has a cap of 8 per ward, plus you can exceed that cap if they were in the system advance of the moratorium. And based on the number that was sent to us, that would be a maximum of 67, but not a guarantee, which is still a lot. By no means am I saying that's not a lot. But I just want to make sure we're clear to that what I'm saying is accurate, and that's the number, we can all discuss moving forward, just to make sure that there's no confusion there. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. And then the second thing is, obviously, we heard concerns about the distance between the dispensaries. This would change that because of the cap of the 8 per ward. Obviously, I know downtown the best. We had the city challenge of determining who got to put their pin in the map first. Because the city struggled to determine that, there are some approved within 600 feet, so that's already sort of happened. And obviously, the 8 per ward, you could have some there, but that once you hit that cap, you're not going to have more coming after that. So you roughly, certainly for downtown, in the pipeline, we have more than 8. I think it's 9 that's in downtown. So that would, to address any distance issues. I do, in the next 2 weeks, really want to dive into the consumption lounge. I understand that's a substantial change, but I want to really understand where the city intends to go on that. Even if it's not coming in this one, and we move forward with a change here, that is very important on my end. So I just wanted to state those things and vote aye to table.
Thank you. Councilperson Gilmore.
I'll vote aye to table, but I think at some point we gonna either have to vote this thing up or vote it down. It's, I don't even know how we fix it, to be honest with you. But at some point we got to do something. So I'll vote aye to table.
Thank you. And Council President Waterman.
Table.
Ordinance 24-078 is tabled after the close of the public hearing, and Amendment 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Okay, our next second reading ordinance, item 4.2, City Ordinance 24-087, is an ordinance amending Chapter 188 to establish a local preference for affordable housing units created by local regulations and requirement. As discussed at the caucus meeting, I believe Councilperson Solomon is going to make a motion to carry City Ordinance 24-087 to the October 30th council meeting. Is that correct? Councilperson Solomon?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a second on the motion to carry City Ordinance 24-087 to the October 30th council meeting?
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to carry City Ordinance 24-087 to the October 30th council meeting, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. On to our next second reading ordinance, item 4.3. City Ordinance 24-088 is an ordinance amending Chapter 321 of the Municipal Code of the City of Jersey City. As discussed at the caucus, I believe I'm going to have a motion to defeat City Ordinance 24-088 without conducting a public hearing and to bring back a brand new ordinance at a future council meeting date. May I have a motion to move to defeat City Ordinance 24-088 without conducting a public hearing? Motion made by Council President Waterman. May I have a second? Second, I believe, was made by Councilperson Saleh.
Yes.
On the motion to defeat City Ordinance 24-088 without a public hearing, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson
Aye.
Gilmore. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent.
Just
for
want to-
for the defeation of ordinance 24-088. If we're going to defeat it, your vote should not be in the affirmative. Councilperson Ridley.
No.
Councilperson Prinzary.
No.
Councilperson Bajano.
No.
Councilperson Saleh.
No.
Councilperson Solomon.
No.
Councilperson Gilmore.
No.
And Council President Waterman, I'm sorry. City Ordinance 24-088 is defeated 0-7 with all council members present voting no and council members DeGise and Rivera absent.
I ask.
As discussed at the caucus meeting, I believe we have an intention to, and if I can just get to it, I apologize, to remove one of the ordinances. Well, there's going to be two of them, but the first one is item 11.4, City Ordinance 23-065 from the tabled agenda. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second? Sure the mics are on. Seconded by Councilperson Prinzary. On the motion to remove item 11.4, City Ordinance 23-065 from the tabled agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinz.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Council President Waterman. Item 11.4, City Ordinance 23-065 is removed from the tabled agenda on the motion made by Councilperson Saleh, seconded by Councilperson Prinzary. Motion carries 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Ordinance 23-065 is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of Block 11611, Lot 1.02, more commonly known by the street address of 335 Washington Street from 335 Washington Realty LLC. This ordinance was tabled after the close of the public hearing by a motion made by Councilperson Prinzary, seconded by Councilperson Saleh. And council members Ridley and Rivera and Waterman were absent. This was on July 12th. So we can move right on to the final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 23-065. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. City Ordinance 23-065 is adopted 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. And our next our next tabled ordinance that we're looking to untable as discussed at the caucus on Tuesday is 11.6. City Ordinance, my goodness, 23-078, excuse me. It's an ordinance adopting amendments to the Land Development Ordinance regarding definitions, Section 345-6, and cannabis establishments and distributors, Section 345-60.5. This ordinance was tabled after the close of the public hearing on September 20th, 2023. Motion was made by Council President Waterman, seconded by Councilperson Saleh. It was the motion was approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. So may I have a motion to remove City Ordinance 23-078 from the tabled agenda?
Motion.
Motion was made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second? Second by Council President Waterman.
John,
Yes?
before we vote on it, we can't vote on it if we're not passing.
Yeah,
That's what I thought,
Really?
but it was insisting that we do the motion
Yeah.
by the council.
Or we can't vote on it because it has to be, this is contingent upon 84 because that's what planning reviewed and made the zoning recommendations based on the chapter 84 amendments.
Okay.
So are we going to withdraw that motion to remove the
Okay.
ordinance 23?
Rescind the motion.
Motion is going to be motion to rescind the motion. Motion to rescind the motion to remove the ordinance 23-078 from the tabled agenda. The motion was made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Prinzary. On the motion to rescind that motion to remove City Ordinance 23-078 from the tabled agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. So with that being said, we are now moving on to our public speaking portion of the meeting. Please pay close attention to your agenda. I'm going to be calling the speaker number and the first name. Let me just adjust my camera so I can have the camera exactly on the speaker. With that being said, our first speaker, 5.1, Laverne.
I think she left. Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh,
He said,
City Council, I just want to thank you for what you're doing in our community, because if you come up and down our main streets in Jersey City, where a lot of young people are hanging on corners and smoking and drinking, some of these orders that you all are freezing up, they need to be looked into, because today out here, I can ride up and down the avenues in my community and see 10 and 12-year-old kids smoking weed and drinking. I run a nonprofit. This summer, I had about 70 kids in my camp. I run a free camp for years. Like next month, I'll be giving out brand new coats I've been doing for years and turkeys to families. And to see these babies out here doing what they do, and we're not showing enough concern, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace that all we can worry about is housing, development, and nobody's watching the store. These babies are out there. Just like I was talking to my boy from the boys club, and he does for years what I do. I learned from our council president. She can tell you what we had on Ash Street in Pacific when we were young. We had a boys club there and girls club that we can go and play, and free, and juvenile and her brothers and her family and us, the Webbs. We don't have that no more. You know, and I thank God for him bringing it down here and doing transportation for the kids that he do. But there's a lot of kids up on the other side are not getting down here. And we need more affordable housing. Can't talk about that one enough. And I'm going to get back to that at the next council meeting. But I want you to focus on our children, on our babies. Did you see them little babies, how he had them in here? We got another 1,000 of them up on the other side of Grand Street, going up in Greenville. That ain't getting that attention. We need your help. We need your support. On the 22nd, I'll be giving out 200 or 300 free brand new coats, and I'll be doing my turkey giveaway. And I appreciate any support and help you guys can give me, but I need you to focus on our children and some more after-school programs and outreach for them. Because everything I do is free. I don't get no grant money, nothing. I hustle my money out here with these developers because I'm a developer. And I thank you and I appreciate you. God bless you.
thank you. Our next speaker, 5.2, Tina.
Justice for Drew. Justice for Drew. I just wanted to say, Solomon, I really appreciate you coming to the fashion show. That meant a lot because I don't ask you for nothing. I actually do look over you. I really had to Google and see that you ran independent. You didn't run under the mayor. That's what's up, y'all. That's dope. So I just wanted to thank you for that because you actually helped a couple of families get in the fashion show. You don't know what that meant to me. I've been giving out free clothes for 28 years in my community, my own pocket, my own money. So many people promised me stuff that they was going to help me. They was going to send me a check. They was going to donate. They didn't even do none of that. But now I know God bring different things and different people around you to show you who you need to make sure you. So I got your back when you run. I got you. Congratulations on your running. I want to say thank you for Jerry Walker. I want to say thank you for Education of Gilmore. That mean a lot to me. I have good news. Community Treasure finally got a safe spot now that we'll be having for 4 years, guys. Thank God, like this been a long path, but I thank God for the people who brought around me to help me out. Not only that, this not even about me, it's about my community. I'm not even from here. I keep telling people that. I'm from Alabama, Birmingham, when my bathroom was on the side of my house. I've been in this community for 28 years, letting people know about, I'm the best outreach, right, Erica Walker? Thank you. I'm the best for the outreach for Jersey City. The reason why, because I'm in the community. I'm walking with my boots. I'm talking to the people. They trust me. We also been helping with seniors, housing, TRA, all that. Now I realize we are low in housing. I realize we don't have enough housing for our family and the people that's living in our community. I realize that it is a gap and we are suffering. You know why we suffering? Because we worry about the wrong thing. We don't worry about the community. You don't worry about where you came from because half of y'all grew up here in Jersey City. So y'all should know how to do better. But apparently y'all don't. Y'all don't know how to work together and help each other out. But that's all right. Justice for Drew, y'all.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.3, Edward.
Thank you so much, Tina of Community Treasures. And you know why we're suffering? Because shame on you for voting for that museum, right? Just blindly voting for it, not knowing how much that damn thing gonna cost. And we come up here week by week, month by month, year by year, stressing our grievances to you, highlighting all the social ills, and yet you go forth and do that. That's it. You spit right in our face. How dare you come to us for support? Don't look to us for support. Those of you who turn your noses up at us and your backs at us or towards us. I see the Boys and Girls Club here. I saw them here. Shame on you. Shame on you. The lack of funding throughout our city for programs like the Boys and Girls Club. I'm sure that's an enriching program for our youth and many more. Employing people just so much that you missed the mark on yet again. And I'm here to remind you, it's not enough housing out here for us. It's cold now. It's more people on food drive lines and coat drive lines. We need more housing. We need more housing. Justice for Drew. Justice for Drew. October 22nd, the National Day Against Police Brutality, the National Day of Protests. We will be out in the streets. We will be. We want to highlight the injustice that we have to suffer through. And you know what? This city can make a difference. This city can finally make a change. You can reach out to the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County. That's right, Pamela Johnson, and you can begin to build a relationship so we can figure out the best way to move forward with our mental health community crisis response. It's a real thing. We got very little support from the city. Thank God for the state. Arrive Together will be coming here now. Public Safety Director Shea said, what? Well, we just want the public to know that, okay, indeed, police officers still will be coupled with whatever specialists or providers will be there. Okay, but it's about de-escalation tactics. It's about a more culturally competent program, a more culturally competent response. Don't allow our police officers to kill us, to look at us. Give us 100 chances before you decide to take our life from us. Okay? Some community input. Start to give a damn about us.
Our next speaker, 5.4, Gina.
Good evening. Gina Davison, Ward F. Please pardon my appearance tonight. I've been out all day doing animal rescue, thanks to the amazing support of Director Stacy Flanagan and the Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services. And thank you to our shelter director, Mark Burns. As always, I want to thank those who represent the people. Councilpersons Baggiano, Solomon, and Gilmore. We appreciate your time, attention, respect, and advocacy. To the mayor's 6. These past 3 weeks, I have been sick to my stomach. On September 25th, you gave the Kushner family a 30-year tax abatement to wreak havoc on Jersey City's Journal Square. The KRE Group holds over $3 billion in capital investments. They do not need a tax break. On the contrary, we need their tax dollars if they are to develop here and benefit from this city. Property tax is guaranteed income. This so-called 100,000 square feet asset that the city stands to gain in this deal holds absolutely no guarantees of paying off. It is clearly an excuse for you that you are all using in order to cover up what you are really doing, which is to support Stephen Fulop in his misguided run for governor. Your community wants to know, in exchange for this 30-year tax abatement, what kind of campaign contributions and backdoor support will the Kushners give Mayor Fulop in his run for governor? To my fellow community members, make no mistake, the New Jersey-based Kushners are looking to install their new development-happy friend, Stephen Fulop, as the next governor of New Jersey. I will remind the mayor's 6, gentrification is not progress. You have compromised your legacies for short-term personal gain, and I'm curious what position Stephen is promising each of you in exchange for your blind support. You are actually doing Mayor Flop Flop a huge disservice. He has lost his way. And the 6 of you are all too afraid to check him. He's about to be the next Chris Christie, an egomaniac who will eventually be turned into nothing more than pathetic internet memes, ridiculed and universally despised. Y'all are pawns in an effort that smacks of Mayor Koch's deals with Donald Trump in the 70s, which ultimately cost New York City over $800 million in tax revenue. You're part of the problem. If you do not vote with the people, you are not of the people. The worst part is this is distracting from all the issues we absolutely need to fix in this city. For example, the issue of mental health crisis and response, justice for Drew, and shame on all of you.
Next speaker, 5.5, Gary.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Greenberg, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hudson County. I'm here tonight to, clear up a couple of comments that were made at the last meeting. I would just like to respond to the comments that were made. The comment was, I love the Boys and Girls Club, but I remind you that this is the same Boys and Girls Club that kids from the South Side can no longer go to. This is the same Boys and Girls Club that sends staff to the schools because they don't want you people down here. So my response to that is, starting from the south end of the city at the Bayonne City line, these are the following schools that were represented here tonight. The kids had to leave because they get dropped off at home at 6:45. So Soaring Heights, 40, 30, 20, Jersey City Community Charter, 34, 38, 15, 41, 29, 14, 24, Empowerment, 33, 12, 17, 11, 23 this year, Golden Door, Cordero, 5 Beloved, 22 Lena Edwards, 16 3 and 4. So let's also like to clear this up is, number one, 96% of the children that we serve are minorities, 4% are white, 87% of the kids don't pay anything, only 13% of the families pay. Those 13% that do pay only get charged $13 a day or $65 a week.
Hold on.
Wait, we have to call your name. Okay, you finished, Gary?
You done, Gary?
You finished, Gary? Okay, the
Okay,
next.
next speaker, 5.6, Jordan.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jordan Thomas. I'm the unit director for the Boys and Girls Club in Jersey City. I'm here tonight, as Mr. Gary said, some of our staff and our members left, but I brought here tonight my staff and a lot of our Boys and Girls Club members, just to highlight the work that we're doing across the city. The Boys and Girls Club is open to all youth, and we're proud to offer a safe, supportive space for them to learn, grow, and thrive. As Mr. Gary said, our buses cover nearly every school in Jersey City. This year, we added more schools, including 23 and 33 school. Our drop-off points are going down Ocean, Garfield, Kennedy, Bergen, Marion, Montgomery, and West Side Avenue, right? We've made it a priority to reach out to as many youth as possible, and I personally visit many of the schools in Jersey City just to promote our programs. Okay, so we're not going to schools telling people not to come. We're trying to get more kids from every school in Jersey City. We're deeply committed to serving all youth across our community, particularly those that need us the most. We're here today to share how our efforts continue to reach every corner of our city. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.7, Moses. Is Moses here? No. 5.8, Danielle.
Good evening again. Members of the City Council, community leaders, and fellow residents. With the defeat of Ordinance 24-088, we now have an opportunity to be clear about what's needed: the protection of mature trees on private property. While the administration may oppose additional requirements for property owners, this ordinance is crucial in stopping developers and others from removing mature trees that are vital to our community and environment. I became aware of a conversation with other fellow activists with a homeowner who cut down the oak trees their children once played under to build a shed. Sadly, this isn't an isolated case. Others have proudly removed trees without realizing the long-term environmental harm. We need a culture shift in Jersey City, but in the meantime, we need safeguards to prevent these uninformed decisions. This isn't just about development. It's about preserving the natural beauty and wildlife that sustains us all. Mature trees offer benefits that saplings can't replace, such as shade, air purification, and habitat support. These trees take decades to grow, and their value to our community is immense. As we move forward, I urge the council to include specific language in the next ordinance that protects these trees on private property. I propose clear notification and reporting requirements. Written notification must be provided at least 30 days before the removal of any tree, with details sent to the Division of Forestry, the ward council person, and the city clerk. The notification should include the tree's location, approximate age, reason for removal, and any replacement plans. If removal is for health and safety concerns, notification should be given as soon as possible. Any tree removal request must be backed by a professional report confirming no alternative preservation options are possible. By including these measures, we can find a balance between development and the need to protect our mature trees, ensuring their environmental and community benefits are safeguarded. Thank you for your time. Let's work together to protect our trees, our city's mature trees, and build a greener future for Jersey City.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.9, Anne Marie.
Anne Marie Nazaro, Our Lady of Sorrows Parish in Ward F and Jersey City together. Good evening, council, and good evening, community members. Jane Goodall, who's 90 this year, exquisite communicator with a number of species, including humans, wrote, "The cumulative effect of thousands of ethical actions can help save and improve our world for future generations." Jersey City Together believes in thousands of actions saving our world. We've seen the fruits of our actions. Firstly, the drinking fountains in the Jersey City public schools are now safe to be used. Secondly, a bayfront project that will have myriad housing units will have 35%, I repeat, 35% affordable units in our city. The 95.5 home buyers years ago will now get a decent return on their homes that they've been the stewards of for over 20 years. This is all through advocacy by Jersey City Together, by council members, and by members of our community, other action groups. We are here tonight, Bill and I, as the Public Health, Public Safety Committee members of Jersey City Together. We applaud Pam Johnson and the Anti-Violence Coalition. They achieved Seabrook's Drew Washington funding to make a behavioral response for mentally challenged or addiction challenged individuals in our community. We also finally reluctantly see that Jersey City has accepted Arrive Together from the state. We are going to be watchdogging and safeguarding the implementation of these two programs. And by the way, we're still waiting for, and we asked the council, we will follow up after this meeting. There's 1.2 million budgeted in our city's budget, 1.2 million for an effective behavioral response by our police and behavioral health outreach workers in mental or addiction crises. We want to see that money very well deployed for the purpose we've been asking for as Jersey City Together since 2021. It's 2024. Let's do this together. We will work with you. We will follow up after this meeting. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.10, Dania.
Danae, she left. She left out with Gary and
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, 5.11, Emmanuel.
Council members, Council President, good evening. My name is Emmanuel Morgan, and I reside at 164 Harrison in Ward B. I'm here on behalf of myself, my family, the Safe Streets community, and to support the residents of the Heights who are here tonight to ask the City Council to please move forward with an ordinance that would change both Franklin Street and Manhattan Avenue from two ways to one ways as demonstrated during the June and July temporary project this summer. When these streets were converted to one ways for 30 days approximately, I and many others experienced, and the city observed, significant traffic calming results. The city reported that survey respondents said the project made them feel safer. In the Heights, 2/3 of trips are on foot or by bicycle or scooter. The vast majority of survey respondents who walk and bike supported the project. By contrast, 80% of respondents who mostly drive did not support the project. But by this, we can infer that people who opposed the project did so for reasons of convenience and speed, not safety. Speed continues to kill more than 44,000 Americans every year. And here in New Jersey in 2024 thus far, there's been a 14% increase in traffic fatalities and a 30% increase in pedestrian deaths. I support this project because it aligns with our collective city, county, and state Vision Zero goals. By prioritizing a group that has historically been deprioritized, vulnerable travelers, people who walk and bike. This project will make our streets safer for all road users in a high injury network that needs traffic calming. Bike lanes, curb extensions, one-ways are all proven countermeasures to reduce crashes and injuries for all travelers, including drivers. In addition to being a Jersey City resident who supports this project for safety, I am also one of the many advocates working with Hudson County on a Vision Zero initiative. My mission is complete streets, streets where anyone can feel safe no matter what age they are or what mode they use. We advocate for safe, equitable, and sustainable transportation infrastructure that would help to connect Hudson County municipalities for people walking, biking, and taking transit. HUDCO Street supports our Bike JC colleagues in advocating for the Manhattan Avenue and Franklin Street project because it will connect Heights residents to other municipalities in the county, including Hoboken and the West Hudson communities of Kearney, Harrison, and Secaucus through multiple potential routes, including the state's Greenway. I'm almost done. Can I?
Thank you.
Okay.
Time is up.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, 5.12, Tony.
Thank you. Tony Borelli, Vice President of Bike JC and a Jersey City resident for 27 years. I'd like to thank the hundreds and hundreds of people so far who have publicly supported the Protected Bike Lane project, which, as you all know, has already been entirely funded by a grant of $250,000 in order to form the first east-west leg of a safe bike network in the Heights, and to make strides in remediating our current deadly, unhealthful, polluting, climate-destroying, and woefully inefficient transportation system. But I'd also like to thank several people who have surfaced a few specific concerns during and after the 1-month pilot of this project. That's one of the main reasons to do a pilot, a beta test, to work out the bugs. And just as happens with basically every other similar project, when we drill down into such concerns, as we should, we generally find some fairly obvious solutions, the kind routinely implemented by the city's talented transportation professionals on many similar projects. As far as we can tell, that's the kind of thing we're looking at with this project. For example, there was a concern that some car traffic would inappropriately use Little Howie Fink Way as an alternate route, when really it's more of a driveway for a park, a playground, and so forth. Well, Howie Fink already just got a speed hump and other traffic calming and can get plenty more, especially with the pedestrian traffic to the reservoir. It probably should anyway. There was a worry about vehicles getting in and out of the Stop and Shop. The management has told us they're good with the bike lane as long as there's a couple of tweaks made to parking right outside their entrances, which sounds reasonable. Details. The cardiology office could get maybe a wider entrance between barricades, bollards, etc. These are, again, things that our professionals solve in any such project without canceling it or substituting something radically different. And we've seen no reason why they can't do the same for this wonderful, badly needed, fully funded project. We strongly urge you to let them do just that with all possible speed and vigor. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.13, Beatrice.
Hi, Beatriz. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you tonight. I'm with Bike JC. I'm a trustee and an officer. I'm also a resident of the Heights, and we helped to secure a grant to implement the demonstration project that my colleague just mentioned. When we were helping to install that demonstration project, there were neighbors that were skeptical about what was going on, and some people like without even seeing what was going on. We're just like, nope. And then a few weeks later, we went to canvass the neighborhood to get petitions to see how things were going. And the same people that were skeptical or were against it were talking about how great it was, how calm the street was, how much they loved it. And these are people that live on it, both in council in Ward D and Ward C. So it wasn't just Ward D residents. There were still a few who weren't totally convinced. And when speaking with them, a lot of the problems were that it was inconvenient to them. There was, maybe they would have to travel an extra block. But for me, it's not about inconvenience. I choose to travel primarily by bicycle, as a lot of other people do, for many reasons. And my life is at risk, and I would like to have a safe way to travel through my neighborhood. I know that there is other neighbors with, it connects two schools, two parks and a school, and people want to have the option to take their children biking, and they say they're afraid to. It's too dangerous. This would help. I know in the future there is a bigger plan. We know that the north-south connector is very important, and we also know that Jersey City already has an $8 million grant to address that north-south connector summit. So we're going to need to get in more than just one direction. This is a very important piece of the puzzle. And as my colleague mentioned, there's just tweaks that need to happen to the project. It doesn't need to be, we don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. The surveys showed that people found the street to be safer, so we know that it worked. There have been 10 accidents on this corridor, vehicle crashes, not accidents, I'm sorry. 10 vehicle crashes resulting in injury, and 7 of the 10 involved pedestrians and cyclists. The Federal Highway Administration has stated that protected bike lanes are a proven safety countermeasure, and the demonstration project showed that it worked. Earlier, or last year, Councilperson Saleh and his team surveyed the Heights, and there was a 70% support for protected bike lanes in the Heights. Let's make it happen.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.14, Gil.
Hey, council people. I am a Heights resident. I'm a dad in the Heights. I'm in Ward D. Sorry, first time doing this, so bear with me. So I'm speaking in support of this protected bike lane. And in particular, I'm doing so as a walker, a biker, a driver in the neighborhood. My family personally has witnessed a lot of traffic violence on our streets. My wife saw a car hit a scooter rider, just around the block from us. And we welcomed a daughter into the world in May, and walking around with a stroller in the Heights. We've had a lot of close calls. It's scary. Our streets are not built right now for pedestrians and not for bikers, and frankly, not for driver safety either. And I really feel like this is a public health and safety issue. And I don't mean this sarcastically or in a demeaning way at all. But if it's more palatable to think of this as a safety lane, I would encourage you to do that. The research shows that protected bike lanes protect not only cyclists, but also walkers and drivers from injuries and death. Only 36% of the trips in our neighborhood, and this is from our own Department of Infrastructure, only 36% of our trips happen by car. That means that people who drive are more vulnerable when they walk. Some people only walk, some people scoot, some people bike, and that's when they're at their most vulnerable. And I think that our infrastructure and our city council should be protecting them at that time. Our neighborhood has 0 protected bike lanes and is behind, frankly, a lot of Jersey City in this infrastructure. Numbers wise, as you heard after the pilot, 93% of cyclists, 68% of walkers supported making this lane permanent. And as you just heard, that's most of the trips in our neighborhood. So I do think that you have support from your constituents. And as you also heard, 70% of Councilman Saleh's own residents by his own survey support a protected bike lane. They might not be sure where it should be, But this lane has been planned since 2019 with the Jersey City Bike Master Plan. It's been funded since 2022. And I truly believe that every delay in passing an ordinance to make this protected bike lane possible is a choice, and it's a choice to maintain the status quo of our streets. I think that's unacceptable, and I think it's a choice to allow these dangerous conditions to continue. So please build this bike lane, help us, and help make it safer for us and our children in the Heights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.15, Dana.
Good evening. My name is Dana Heyman, and I'm a current resident in the Heights in Ward D. My husband and I decided to live in the Heights because of all the great parks, being close to friends, and the somewhat walkable nature of the neighborhood. I'm here to advocate for the protected bike lane along Franklin and Manhattan Avenues. It makes our streets safer and connects the eastern and western parts of the Heights. Walking and biking in the Heights can be incredibly dangerous due to the lack of visibility at corners from often illegally parked cars and drivers going too fast down narrow urban streets. I often go to Pershing Field to walk, run, and enjoy the park. When the PBL was in place, I felt so much safer crossing the street due to how much more visibility there was at the intersection of Manhattan and Summit. Additionally, as one of your residents and constituents that doesn't own a car, I was able to easily get to stores and restaurants near Riverview Park from Pershing Field by bike. Every time I biked back, my first thought when I reached the PBL was, I'm going to make it home. Without the PBL, I don't feel comfortable biking to Palisade and Points East. Instead, I walk to Hoboken. I walk to the elevator, that is, and bike in Hoboken. And that's where I feel safe. I'd really like to feel safe in my city. Furthermore, a key part of this is that the elevator has to function. The elevator outage last week really points to not only the importance of the east-west corridor for residents of the Heights, but also the need for more options and redundancies. I urge City Council, and especially my councilperson, Soleil, to implement the protected bike lane as soon as possible on Franklin and Manhattan Avenues to give your constituents safe streets and transportation options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.16, Evelyn. Is Evelyn here? Okay, 5.17, Rochelle.
Good evening, council members. Good evening, community members. My name is Rochelle Hoffman. I am the director and co-founder of We Care Movement, which is a community faith-based organization here in the great city of Jersey City. We Care Movement, Inc., Drink Less, Live More initiative aims to encourage responsible drinking habits and foster a healthier and happy society. We provided handouts to each council member to show the current health warning labels that's in existence and our amended draft that we would like to see go forward. So our research has led to the finding of a total of 8 liquor stores from Monticello Avenue down on Martin Luther King Drive from Stevens to Warner. Within Stevens and Warner, there's 2 liquor stores within a half a block radius. I'm not here to just talk about the number of liquor stores in such a short distance from each other. I'm here to discuss the urgent need to have the current warning labels amended and also share some statistics on how alcohol is deeply ingrained in many cultures and the darker side to alcohol consumption that goes unnoticed. Excessive drinking has become a silent epidemic, wreaking havoc in underserved overlooked communities, wreaking havoc in public health, wreaking havoc on family structures and economic productivity. According to the National Institute of Health on alcohol consumption, over 3 million deaths each year result from harmful use of alcohol. That accounts for nearly 6% of all deaths worldwide. In the United States, 1 in 6 adults binge drink. Each year, excessive drinking leads to approximately 88 deaths. Clear to home, close to home, 1 in 5 adults admit to drinking more than they should, which in some cases result in negative consequences, poor decision-making, DUIs, and the destruction of personal relationship. excessive alcohol and the misuse impact on health, liver disease like liver cancer, heart disease and hypertension, a various form of cancers, mouth, throat, and breast, mental health disorder such as depression and anxiety. A call to change. We thank Councilman Mara Prince for heeding our call for change, working towards increasing public awareness through our Drink Less, Live More initiative, and hope to gain from support from other council members with the resolution amending the current warning labels, which only highlights the danger of drinking alcohol while being pregnant. The Drink Less, Live More initiative call to action is for all. We all have a role to play in reducing the harmful causes by excessive drinking. Drinking less isn't about restricting enjoyment, it's about living more. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.18, Bill.
Name is Bill Lillis. I live in Jersey City, member of Our Lady of Sorrows Church, and a member of the Jersey City Together Health and Safety Committee. As council members know, since before George Floyd died, we have been advocating for the hiring of outreach workers to go out on emergency calls involving individuals who are experiencing a mental health and/or substance abuse issue. As my fellow Jersey City Together member Anne Marie noted earlier, we acknowledge that some progress has been made. A grant submitted by the state, by the Hudson County Anti-Violence Coalition, is now in the process of being put together. We applaud that initiative. Secondly, the city now has signed on to be a part of Arrive Together. We applaud the city for doing this, and we look very much forward to seeing the program getting put in place. I would love to get a date when that particular program is actually going to start. We know both of these programs are positive steps forward, but we also realize that both, for progress to take place, input from the community needs to take place so as to serve our citizens as best they can. It did not escape notice of the committee that there was no public ceremony promoting Arrive Together. The announcement came from the Attorney General's office, and Director Shea offered some cautionary comments about how the program will be implemented. It's clear to us at Jersey City Together that other municipalities throughout the state have successfully put this program in place. We are way behind. And the needs of the public health and the mental health of our city need to be addressed by this particular program. We at Jersey City go on record that we will continue to advocate for the needs of these residents. We will continue to push for programs to eventually put in place programs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That to me should be the standard we're looking for. We certainly commend the council people we worked with to move things forward, even though the RFP didn't work out the way we wanted. We also want to support every possible way that the needs of the Washington family can be met. We know that family is advocating for a good program to be in place. Myself and Boris Franklin, we served on that working group with the city. And we know that $1.2 million is devoted to the issue is not being spent. We'd be happy to look at how we could spend that money for the best interest of the city. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, 5.19, Paul. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker, 5.20, Julie. Sorry. That on accident.
It's okay. Good evening. My name is Julie Kyrie Monhe, a Jersey City native, and I'm here in an attempt to convey some of the collective grief, rage, and disgust for what our city and country have become, the United States of Israel. Of all the years I've lived here, I've never seen or experienced the level of dehumanization towards Arabs and Muslims as I have this year. From local businesses to countless community members, we have all received our fair share of vile comments, messages, hatred, harassment, and have seen public displays of racism and terrorism, such as celebrating dancing and singing online, to the news of pagers exploding and killing innocent civilians, captioned with phrases like Mazel Tov and Shabbat Shalom, to name a few, that should really concern anyone who cares about public safety, especially during these times of crisis when 1 in 5 American adults live with mental illness. Gun laws are weaker than ever, and all of our U.S. tax dollars continue to fund a modern-day Holocaust. We have spent over a year watching mass murder in 4K, people carrying their children's charred human flesh remains in literal plastic bags and shoe boxes. Can you fathom that, Mr. Solomon? Can you fathom carrying Noel or Camila in pieces in a banned plastic grocery bag? This past Sunday, I watched countless innocent civilians literally burn to death, including a 19-year-old boy still connected to the IV drip at the hospital treating him for previous injury inflicted by the IDF. This week was the death anniversary of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy who was brutally murdered when he was stabbed 26 times and his mother 12 by their landlord as he shouted, "You Muslims must die." Just a few months later, a woman attempted to drown a 3-year-old Palestinian-American child at a community pool, and a teacher threatened to slit a 7th grade Muslim student's throat. And just this week, a 73-year-old man stabbed and slashed the neck of a 7-year-old Yemeni-American Muslim girl, all on U.S. soil. A lot of you politicians like to gaslight us into thinking that we don't understand politics or your jobs. But we understand politics very well because we have been subjected to live with the consequences of politicians and their actions and corruption and refusal to listen to us and respect the people and respect our rights, dignity, and humanity. You can't march in a Columbus Day parade and then publish an empty Indigenous peoples post. You can't be for the people while protecting the powerful that continue to harm and erase us. You can't be the villain and the victim. Where were you when hundreds of people gathered around City Hall and auditioned for your humanity in these very chambers earlier this year? When Andrew Washington was murdered in his home? Every single one of your actions or lack of have contributed to the dehumanization of our lives near and far, and for that you should feel deeply ashamed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.21, Kevin.
Good evening, Council. Just about 2 years ago, I stood here and told you about my July 27, 2022 petition. The petition that Dinah Hendon told me to file by phone and in writing, right after she told me both buildings are subject to rent control and why. Now, I'm back with a tale of deja vu. So absurd, it would be laughable if it wasn't so deeply troubling. On September 19, 2024, exactly 2 years to the day after Dinah Hendon's notorious determination, I personally witnessed Director Richardson inspect our buildings. I saw him photograph bare walls where certificates should have been displayed. I heard him inform our landlord of their non-compliance. I even heard our property manager tell him, "Find me if you want." And is the intention that I'm supposed to be a Kinko's? She went on to explain that even if she did follow the law, tenants would probably just remove the posted certificate. You'd think this was a clear-cut case of non-compliance, right? Wrong. Director Richardson has echoed Dinah Hendon's actions. Despite everything he observed and stated that day in front of witnesses, some behind me, he declared our landlord is in compliance with 260-3J. Let me be unequivocal. 260-3J demands full compliance with the landlord identity disclosure law, full compliance, not partial, not nearly, full, New Jersey law. So I ask you, Council, how does an outdated certificate listing individuals who no longer work at either building constitute full compliance? How does a complete absence of required emergency contact information, including the name, address, and phone number of our super, equate to full compliance? How does outright refusal to post mandated information align with full compliance? And how can Director Richardson claim full compliance when he himself attached a lease to his letter that lacked the required registration certificate? I'm not merely stunned or shocked. I'm profoundly disturbed that Director Richardson would take such action. This isn't just a violation of city ordinance. It's a blatant disregard for New Jersey state law. Council, I implore you to take immediate steps to rectify this egregious error. The clock is ticking. Will you stand for justice, or will you be complicit in this mockery of law? I call upon the city to issue a correction without delay. Failing that, I urge this council to initiate a thorough investigation to uncover how such a glaring oversight could occur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.22, Suzanne.
Good evening, Council. I speak to you tonight as a fully frustrated and disappointed constituent of yours. When I became a tenant at Portside Towers, I was provided the truth in renting statement. The landlord identity disclosure provision in the truth in renting statement states the landlord certificate of registration must be in a visible area for tenants to see and reference. Unfortunately, there is no certificate of registration in the East or West Tower at Portside. I learned that Director Richardson came to Portside Towers. This is a little repetitive, but I'm going to say it anyway. A few weeks ago and saw the blatant noncompliance by Equity with his own eyes that there is no certificate of registration in plain view in our buildings that is compliant in any regard. There was apparently an old one, as Kevin mentioned, that was also out of compliance. Director Richardson asked if the name, address, and phone number of our super was on the certificate. It was not. The landlord identity disclosure provision contained in the truth in renting statement claims the registration statement must be given in writing to each tenant and posted in a place in the building where it can be easily seen. This is clearly not happening and hasn't happened. Director Richardson told our building manager the building was violating the ordinance. He was met with sarcasm and no intent to rectify the issue. What a surprise. Director Richardson returned the next day where he was denied access to the closed and locked office. Not even the old non-compliant certificate was available to be viewed. The craziest part is, as Kevin just mentioned, Director Richardson then continued to issue his determination that our landlord was in compliance with 260-3J, which requires full compliance with the New Jersey landlord identity law. Why is this important? The ordinance says this. The landlord shall provide to each tenant a copy of the truth in renting statement and subsequent amendments to said statement and be in full compliance with the landlord identity disclosure provision contained within the statement in order to qualify for any rental increase. Because the city is attempting to give our landlord a pass on full compliance with the landlord identity disclosure provision, the current recalculation gives our landlord credit for increases during the 6-year look-back period. Wow. This is continued conspiring from the city against us. The non-compliance is in plain view, and yet the city continues to allow Equity to raise rents and carry out other illegal activities. I have never seen the certificate of registration where it can be easily seen, and I have never seen any copy of it. Is it not obvious that our rents are legally inflated? I am paying an illegal rent every month to a corrupt landlord backed by a corrupt city who will willfully conspire against us. Can you negate anything I am saying? When is this investigation happening? Any answer from you guys over here?
Thank you.
Lawyers? Anyone?
Our next speaker, 5.23, Tom.
Good evening, Council. I stand before you today as a tenant of Portside Towers, but I speak for thousands of Jersey City residents who have fallen victim to a pervasive fraud that strikes at the very heart of our community. On Sunday, September 29th, the TV news program 60 Minutes aired a fascinating segment titled Whistleblowers Claim Insurance Companies Shortchanged Some Florida Homeowners After Hurricane Ian. It highlighted widespread insurance fraud in Florida, where adjusters' reports were systematically altered to shortchange homeowners after Hurricane Ian. Licensed adjusters testified that insurance companies deliberately changed damage estimates, leaving families unable to repair their homes. This fraud mirrors the situation we face right here in Jersey City with Equity Residential, a multi-billion-dollar REIT that owns Portside Towers. For decades, Equity has fraudulently claimed that our buildings are exempt from rent control, overcharging tenants by thousands of dollars each year. The parallels are striking. In Florida, insurance companies manipulated reports to avoid paying legitimate claims. Here, Equity has manipulated its filings with the city to avoid complying with rent control laws that protect tenants. In Florida, adjusters were pressured to leave damage off reports. Here, Equity has systematically omitted required information from landlord registration statements and rent rolls in direct violation of Jersey City's rent control ordinance. In Florida, homeowners were told to sue if they wanted fair treatment. Here, Equity is forcing tenants into costly legal battles to enforce their basic rights under the law. But the most disturbing parallel is the lack of enforcement by those sworn to protect us. For the past 2 years, the Florida homeowners have been fighting with their insurance companies for what they're legally due. Similarly, for the past 2 years, Jersey City's government has turned a blind eye to Equity's blatant violations, leaving tenants unprotected and needing to fight for their rights. Our rent control ordinance is clear. It requires landlords to file annual registration statements and rent rolls to qualify for any rental increase. An up-to-date and accurate landlord identity certificate must be given to tenants and a copy placed in a conspicuous location within each building. Equity has failed to do these things for decades. The law states that any rent increase imposed without meeting these requirements, quote, is hereby declared to be null and void, and such excess rent shall be refunded or credited by the landlord forthwith. Yet when confronted with evidence of Equity's noncompliance, our rent leveling board and city officials have bent over backwards to protect this corporate giant at the expense of ordinary citizens. This is not a matter of honest disagreement or simple oversight. It's a systemic failure of governance and a betrayal of public trust. We call on our city leaders to enforce the law as written, hold Equity accountable for its years of illegal rent increases, launch a full investigation into how this fraud was allowed to persist for so long. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.24, Joel.
Good evening, council members. On September 25th, despite tremendous public opinion against it, 6 of you voted to pass Ordinance 24-086 to authorize 2 separate pilot agreements with the Kushner Real Estate Group. Council members Baggiano, Solomon, and Gilmore, thank you for voting no and supporting your city. Jersey City has been willing to enter into pilot agreements for decades. Current pilot payments are about $100 million annually. 2019 PFK O'Connor Davies audit revealed potential annual losses of over $41 million from just 19 out of 179 pilot agreements. Do the math. According to this audit, the city collected approximately $100 million in pilot payments, but it should have collected about $140 million. The city's budget was about $680 million in 2020. Thus, the city failed to collect 6% of revenue due. I've not been able to determine whether the city has changed its practices and collects what it is due under these agreements, but you have the power to do so. 6 of you voted to reduce the property taxes for the Kushner Real Estate Group. I demand that you, actually all of you, act as the public stewards of public money. You must, especially real estate tax and pilot revenue, you must ensure that regular audits of all pilot agreements are conducted. You must identify cheaters and terminate their agreements if possible, or enforce the maximum penalties allowed against these cheaters. Finally, make these results public. This is transparent governance. In other news, Chapter 260-3 identifies allowable increases of rent-controlled dwellings. Chapter 260-3J states the landlord shall provide to each tenant a copy of the truth in renting statement and subsequent amendments, and be in full compliance with the landlord identity disclosure provision contained within the statements in order to qualify for any rental increase. I have never seen any certificate of registration with the name, address, and phone number of my building's superintendent. And I think that's been repeated by Pastor Richardson, and we might hear about some more tonight. Please enforce.
The next speaker, 5.25, Brendan.
Good evening, Council. Now, before I start, I would like to state that I was a full volunteer firefighter for about 10 years since I was 16. Now, let me tell you a story about a home. It was a lovely home in Jersey City with a flashing neon sign saying no smoke detectors inside. Every day, the fire department would go past the home to various fires. Eventually, but they did nothing. The fire marshal came to inspect. He saw the sign, went in to inspect, and saw that there were no fire detectors. The owner replied, "Find me if you want, I'm not putting any in." So the marshal went back to the station, and a week later he filed a report finding that the house magically had fire detectors. Sounds like an outrageous story, and it is what we are living in right now in Jersey City. As we As we know, Director Richardson went to the building, was meted with sarcasm and rudeness, and yet there was no actual compliance with the landlord-tenant law. And magically, after he went home, through the power of belief in Equity's employees, he magically found them to be in compliance. I'm not sure if it was pixie dust or there was something else that happened, but it suddenly became in compliance. Yet I, as a resident, have never actually seen any contact information for the super. Would have been rather helpful when I came home to no door to my apartment. Would be rather lovely, actually. And was told to wait till morning, and I put up a sheet. And that's just it. We have no compliance. If this was in Jersey City and I parked my car over a cyclist in a bike lane, I can't go out and tell the cop, it doesn't matter, the city's going to be making this into a road anyway. Fortunately, the city's probably going to do that anyway, no matter what I do. But it appears that if you're a landlord, you can just get your building to be in compliance while not being in compliance. I look forward to a few more fires, as we saw with that restaurant down the block. About 4 blocks from here might not have been compliance, and they burnt down and left a bunch of people homeless. Lovely. I am looking forward to the next fire in the city. So are the laws in the city just a mere suggestion for the rich while it traps the rest of us inside? There's a bureaucracy we cannot comprehend, like some satirical British comedy. I do not know. I'd personally like a city that actually followed the laws it wrote. We wrote them for a reason. Let's actually enforce them. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, 5.26, David.
To quote a favorite TV show, The West Wing, everyone is stupid in an election year. No, everyone is treated like they're stupid in an election year. I'll follow my neighbor's lead and draw some lines for you to show that being treated as stupid is not quite the same thing as being stupid. Some months ago, many of us were pleased to feign our optimism over the apparently hollow rectification in the form of an erroneous base rate recalculation at Portside. I'm here tonight to say that I'm quite finished feigning anything. I feel we have all been adopting the posture of educators or reporters trying to teach you about ongoing injustices that surely you must have been aware of. We do this to allow you all the space to pretend you're simply in the process of discovering the truth. Hard truth, Portside is not the only bad guy in this story. You are too. Director Richardson was recently disingenuous in an official determination, as you've just heard. Before that, his office under your watch, knowingly, I believe, incorrectly completed the mandated recalculation. Were I a gambling man, I might wager that that's what he was told to do, but that's a story for another day. Here are some facts. Following the fire in Portside, Richardson investigated and stated before witnesses having found both East and West Tower to not be in compliance with 260-3J. Richardson then made the official determination that they were in compliance. Curious. A landlord does not qualify for any rent increase if they are not in compliance with any measure of 260, yes, including 260-3J. The recalculation is in fact incorrect because it allows for increases over the real legal base rate that would have only been permissible if Portside were in total compliance. These are not the actions of Equity Residential, they are your actions and inactions. Of course, Richardson's official determination after the fire had to be that Portside Towers were in compliance. How could he possibly issue a recalculation that could only possibly add up if Portside was in compliance, and then a month later acknowledge that they were not in compliance? And we're supposed to believe you didn't know? 2 months of discussions between lawyers and what? We're supposed to believe it was a simple mistake? Enough. I'm calling you out. This is not equity. This is you. You, the mayor, you think you're fooling us. You think you're fooling the voters. You're not. You think we're stupid. We're not. And elections are not far off.
Okay, before I call the next speaker, security just notified us that there's a Jeep Cherokee license plate number S as in Sam 42, P as in Peter, F as in Frank, X as in X-ray, that has, it's in the city lot across the street and it's running with no one in the car. Does anybody own that vehicle that's in this room? Hearing none, just figured I'd mention it. Okay, next speaker, 5.27, Mark.
Good evening, City Council. We meet again. While signing my most recent lease with Portside Towers, I noticed that the landlord registration statement was missing from the lease. It's a required document that forms part of the lease itself. I sent an email to Equity Residential requesting the missing landlord registration for 155 Washington to complete my lease. A couple of days later, a Brandon Castro of Equity replied, sending me a New Jersey state document titled Life Hazard Use Certificate. It was also dated August 2000. It was also for the wrong building. Anyway, after I pointed out that this was not the right document, I received a New Jersey, excuse me, I apologize. I received the New Jersey State Certificate of Registration for my building. It was dated May the 25th, 2011. Now, bear in mind, this was this year in February. It was obviously out of date, listing a superintendent who left many years ago and a building manager who left even before that. New Jersey certificates must be amended within 20 days of a change of person, and each tenant must be notified within a further 7 days. So since I never received one and it's changed, I'm sure they're not in compliance with New Jersey state law. Also, both of the documents, the fire one and the registration, state on the front in capitals. The law requires that this certificate of registration be posted in a conspicuous location in the registered premises. Since I received it, in fact, the next day I went down and looked. I couldn't find either of them posted in our buildings. They weren't in the lobbies. They weren't in the mail areas. They weren't in the laundry. They weren't in the residence lounge. They weren't in the hallways, and not even in the children's playroom. So recently, a few days ago, I was told that Director Richardson came to our building almost a month ago. You've already heard this. One of the things he did was look for a display of the registration documents, but didn't find them. A few days later, Richardson issued a determination Equity Residential was in compliance with 260-3J. How can that be when 263J requires full compliance with the New Jersey landlord identity law? I have two questions for this council and their legal advisors. What is the process to impeach and remove an appointed member of the executive of this city? And two, is ignoring the law and lying about compliance sufficient grounds to start that impeachment process? Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.28, Renetta.
Good night, council members. I just want to make a parallel very quickly. So I guess everybody knows of the endeavors of Mayor Eric Adams in Manhattan, right? And how he granted that the building was in full compliance. I think it was the government of Turkey or something. But the building was in full compliance, but the building had never even been inspected. So any similarities to our case? Maybe. Anyway, I want to take you on a journey through the garden of loss. Imagine Jersey City as a vast, diverse garden. Each law is a plant, carefully cultivated to create a harmonious ecosystem where all residents can thrive. The Rent Control Ordinance, that's a mighty oak providing shelter and stability. The Landlord Identity Disclosure Act, a sturdy fence protecting the garden's boundaries. Now, in these gardens, we have gardeners, our city officials, tasked with nurturing these legal plants, ensuring they grow strong and healthy. And we, the citizens, are the flowers and vegetables relying on this ecosystem to flourish. But something strange has happened in our garden. A weed has taken root. A weed of non-compliance is spreading rapidly, choking out the carefully cultivated laws we depend on. We brought this to the attention of our head gardener, Director Richardson. Look, we said, this weed is strangling our plants. It's violating the very design of our garden. Richards came to inspect. He saw the weed with his own eyes. Its tendrils wrapped around the fence of landlord identity disclosure. He heard the gardeners admit that we weren't tending to the plants as they should. He even took pictures of the barren spots where vital information should have been growing. And then, in a twist that would make even the most imaginative storyteller pause, he declared the garden in full bloom and perfectly maintained. I wonder how much he got for it. Council members, let us sink in. The very person responsible for maintaining our legal ecosystem has essentially declared that weeds are now welcome plants. That can only happen if something really, really, really weird is going on behind the scenes. Why aren't you investigating?
Our next speaker, 5.29, Mimi.
Good evening. My name is Mimi, and until last year, I called Portside Towers my home. I'm here today because my former landlord's non-compliance with your laws has priced me out of my community. Just over a year ago, I had to leave Jersey City when my partner was called for military service in his homeland. We always planned to return, but now I can't afford to come home. Even after the Rent Leveling Board ruled that both Portside buildings were never exempt from rent control, Equity has kept raising rents illegally. This weekend marks 1 year since the determination, and Equity Residential is charging even more now than the inflated rates I was already overpaying. Let me be clear. This isn't just about me. It's about how this city fails its residents. The facts are simple. Jersey City's rent control ordinance applies to buildings with 5 or more units. Portside Towers has over 500 units. It's clearly covered. The law requires landlords to register rent rolls and limits annual increases. Equity has ignored these rules for years. Your own rent leveling board confirmed last October that Portside was never exempt from rent control. The board ordered rents to be recalculated, but a year later, nothing has changed. Equity continues to ignore the law and overcharges its tenants. Equity has done a disservice to the Portside and Jersey City community by pricing out long-term residents like me. This will never happen in South Korea. There, if a law exists, it's enforced, period. Here, it seems laws only matter if they benefit wealthy landlords. Your job is to service the people of Jersey City, not corporations, not campaign donors. We voted for you to protect our interests, to enforce our laws, to keep our community affordable and diverse. Instead, greed runs unchecked, forcing out residents who built their lives here. I love Jersey City. I want to come home, but Equity's awful behavior means that I can't. Enforce the rent control ordinance and hold Equity accountable. Recalculate the rents in alignment with the law. Equity must give tenants back money that's rightly theirs. Make it possible for people like me to be part of this community again. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.30, Jessica.
Thanks, Mimi. You were one of the first people who filed an illegal rent petition. Appreciate you coming back. So I want to live in a world where laws are upheld, investigations are thorough and just, and wrongdoers are held accountable. But here in Jersey City, Mayor Fulop, the city council, and city employees like Director Richardson are not following the law. They are evasive, duplicitous, and consistently dodge calls for investigations. Wrongdoers continue to harm those that you pledged to protect. We often discuss Portside when we're here. Many of tonight's speakers live there. But if we, a strong and resilient tenant union, are struggling to see justice after 2 years of fighting, who else stands a chance? This realization enrages me to the point I'm shaking and fuels my determination to make our case a shining beacon and blueprint that I will happily share online for others facing similar mistreatment by their landlords, and who would have thought by their own municipalities. Instead of breaking us, you are making us stronger, louder, better organized, and more resolute in our commitment to vote you all out for the hell you are putting us through. How can you sit idly by and let this continue? It has been a year since the rent leveling board ruled in our favor. Yet when Director Richardson issued his draft recalculations, he made crucial errors that siphoned millions of dollars from our wallets. Our landlord has never complied with the landlord identity disclosure provision, which is required for any rental increases. This law exists so that in cases of emergency, tenants have a way to reach their superintendent and landlords. And you know that recently we've had fires, floods, yesterday a nearby water main ruptured, and repairs continue until at least tomorrow. Emergencies are not unlikely or rare for us. They happen to us daily. We can't even call our super. When we raise this critical issue again due to this recent fire, because we first told you 2 years ago, it took months for Director Richardson to conduct an inspection. And when he finally did a month ago, he admitted on site that he couldn't identify the required information. He asked management multiple times for the information. Not only did they refuse, stating their lawyers are aware, but they even volunteered to pay a fine because they know it's ridiculous, this little fine that they would have to pay. Yet Director Richardson later wrote a letter declaring our landlord compliant. Do you understand how absurd this is? How insulting it is to be lied to when we are all perfectly capable of reading local and state laws. Shame on you. Shame on all of you for allowing this fraud and theft to continue.
Our next speaker, 5.31, Alexandra.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alexandra, and I'm a resident of Portside Towers. Our community has been talking to you at every council meeting for 2 years. with over 700 plus speeches. City Council wide. Equity set our home on fire, my home. Equity flooded and damaged our homes and walked away. Equity broke the law. Equity breaks the law. Equity is breaking the law. Your job is to enforce the law, but you haven't. Why? Let me say it again so there's no confusion. Equity set our home on fire. Equity flooded and damaged our homes. Equity broke the law. Equity breaks the law. Equity is breaking the law. Your job is to enforce the law, but you haven't. Why? No landlord identity certificate in sight for years. I'll say it again. No landlord identity certificate in sight for years. Did you know that Director Richardson saw with his own eyes that there was no landlord identity certificate at all? Director Richardson saw with his own eyes that there was no landlord identity certificate. And then Director Richardson made a report that did not state the truth. Shame on him. He's a pastor. It's between him and God now. Your job is to enforce the law, but you haven't. Why? Rent recalculations released continue to be illegal. Rent recalculations released continue to be illegal? Rent recalculations released continue to be illegal. Why? Your job is to serve your constituents, but you haven't. Why? Equity set our home on fire. Equity flooded and damaged our homes. Equity broke the law. Equity breaks the law. Equity continues to be breaking the law. Your job is to enforce the law, but you haven't. Why? Your job is to enforce the law, but you haven't. Why?
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.32, Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Davies, and usually I am here with my daughter Lucy. She is at dance class today, but she sends her regards. And, it made me think about how much Lucy has learned about democracy and about being a constituent, and how crazy it is that I organized her whole after school schedule so that she could have Wednesday nights free to come to city council. Like, what 9-year-old has city council on their schedule? I realize that that's part of being a citizen living in a democracy, and it is privilege, but it is a privilege that needs to be met with responsibility. Yesterday, we were looking at old photos in the Time Hop app, and we saw a photo from 2 years ago when I was a volunteer coach with the JCSA, and Councilwoman Prinzeri was our sponsor. So Lucy was running around the field with Councilwoman Prinzeri's name on her chest. She was a advertisement for Councilwoman Prinzeri, and that's great. Like, I appreciate the sponsorship. But one of the things that Lucy asked when we were looking, she zoomed in and she was like, "Oh, who's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a councilwoman." She's like, "Which one?" I'm like, "Second one from the left." She's like, "Oh, is she a good guy or a bad guy?" And the answer, I don't know, because this is, as my neighbors and colleagues have shared, this is beyond just Portside. This is beyond just Ward F. This really is who is following the law, who is upholding the law. You heard about Director Richardson coming to our building. and seeing that Portside was violating the law. And I call on you today, not just as a tenant, but as a citizen who believes in the rule of law and would like to pass that down to my daughter. Like, how do we explain why we're here week after week, month after month, year after year? We started when she was 7. She's 9 now. How many more years is this going to take? And I'm paying hundreds of dollars a month. Like, I woke up at 4 a.m. today. I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow just to do work to pay this rent. I want you, and this is all within your power, to hold Director Richardson accountable for his decision. Most importantly, enforce your own laws. The integrity of our city government hangs in the balance. Will you rise to the occasion, or will you let this egregious oversight stand? The choice is yours, but remember, we're watching, we're remembering, and also our children are watching. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.33, Daniel.
As you all know, on August 7th, we had a fire and a flood at Portside Towers due to maintenance staff negligence, which displaced several residents. We even had a resident break down into tears in front of you all on August 14th because it turned her life upside down. When the fire and flood happened, we didn't have access to landlord identity information, which is a requirement per New Jersey state law and the Jersey City Ordinance. On September 19th, Chiron Richardson visited Portside Towers to inspect compliance with the New Jersey landlord identity law. There was no certificate of registration with such required identification information at 100 Warren Street, nor at 155 Washington Street. Chiron Richardson told the manager of our building this was a violation of the ordinance, and as you already heard, she couldn't care less. Director Richardson returned the next morning, September 20th, for a reinspection, but he was denied access to a closed and locked office, and no certificate of registration was provided to him. Then Chiron Richardson issued his determination that our landlord was, wait for it, in compliance with 260-3J of the city ordinance, which requires full compliance with the New Jersey landlord identity law. I know we're not supposed to curse, so what the mother effing S word is up with that? I'll tell you what's up with that. Landlords must be in full compliance with the landlord identity disclosure provision in order to qualify for any rent increase. So from my perspective, what I think is going on is that Chiron Richardson is trying to give Equity Residential a free pass to raise rents when they don't actually have the legal authority to do so. And why would he do that? My guess is that the mayor wants Equity Residential to be able to charge excessively high rents because there is a political and financial incentive for him to do so because he is corrupt, and that corruption trickles down to Chiron Richardson and many city officials, maybe even some of you. When I moved to Jersey City in 2021, my mom, who grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, and she's way smarter than me, told me Hudson County is really effing corrupt. She used more colorful language. And as she always is, my mom was right. We saw it in action a few weeks ago on the Pompidou Museum vote that 6 of you voted yes for, and we saw it with Chiron Richardson's determination. I'm beyond disappointed in this city for allowing this to happen. It's disgusting that this is still going on 1 year after a legally binding determination that our building was rent controlled. City officials are going out of their way to do everything they can to give Equity Residential a free pass. Shame on you, do better.
Our next speaker, 5.34, David.
Good evening, council members. I come before you today with a heavy heart and a sense of disbelief. I'm going to tell a story that you've heard several times tonight. Director Richardson came to Portside, was taunted by the property manager, it verified himself that there was no registration statement, and then went back and he filed a report that said that the building was in compliance, even though he had seen that the building was not in compliance. So I want to make a couple of points. One is this is important because this is not sort of like checking a box that needs to be done. We need to be able to get a hold of the super, especially in a building where we have fires and floods, sometimes on the same day. And at least one person has, got a bullet through their window. You need to be able to access the people who are responsible for maintaining your building. Number two, there's a reason for this, and this is to lay the groundwork for continuing for putting in these retroactive rent raises, which the building is not entitled to do, which equity is not entitled to charge because they were never in full compliance with the regulation. So this is, it's not a coincidence that this is happening. It's in order to lay the groundwork for continuing to charge illegal rents. Number three, how hard is it to have a certificate where you put the name and phone number of the super on it? It's actually really easy. And so why haven't they done it? Because when you let people break the law with impunity, they break the law more and more. It becomes a lifestyle. And you need to put a stop to it at some point, or it just gets more and more absurd. And the fourth thing is, it takes just as much time to file a false report as to file a true report. This is not a case of, somebody who's overworked, can't get to all the buildings. This took the person going, seeing what happened, asking questions, and then going back and filing a report that said the opposite. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from a book that I read when I was a kid. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. So it's from 1984, and that's what we're dealing with here today in Jersey City. So please look into this. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.35, Ariel.
Hey, good evening, council members. I stand here tonight as a tenant of Portside Towers and as someone who has watched you sit in silence while we demand for human decency. You sit there barely listening, knowing you have the power to change this, and yet you don't. You're well aware of the broken promises, broken laws, and neglect by our landlords, Equity Residential. Tonight, I want to do something different with you. I want to remind you what it feels like when leadership fails to act. And instead, I want you to imagine your loved ones living in a home where the power breaker box makes a strange sound, and your landlord outright denies there's a problem, until nearly calling a certified electrician only to discover a loose electrical cable, a mistake that could be fatal, that could have caused catastrophic damage to life and property. Imagine the washing machine leaking, and with the promise that repairs would only take a few days, which end up taking 5 weeks, during which the machine is pulled from its hookup location and left in the apartment, literally blocking egress out of the bedroom. What if there were an emergency and your loved one needed to evacuate in a hurry? Try to imagine how it feels like. Imagine fearing for your safety day in and night out for weeks on end due to your landlord's neglect. And because of your landlord's non-compliance with mandated landlord identity certificate, we live knowing our safety just doesn't matter. And while we fight for basic safety, Equity Residential continues to raise rents. Our costs go up while quality of life goes down. How can Equity justify higher rents when even the simplest problem, like a broken lock that allows entrance to our amenities, goes unresolved? This door is left broken, wide open, a huge security breach, while our landlord ignores mandating uniform security. This is neglect and endangerment, and we are being exploited to pay more for less security. What if someone with harmful intentions enters the facility? Imagine your loved ones living in such a building. And if your family lived under these conditions in a building where Equity Residential ignored life-threatening issues, would you stand for it? If your answer is no, then why should we? We've come here time again and we're met with indifference. We don't need sympathy, we need action. You have the power to change so much. So when you go home tonight, look around you, look at your safe, comfortable space and ask yourself, how much longer will you let this continue to happen for the people you're supposed to represent? Do better, we demand it.
Our next speaker, 5.36, Sylvia.
Good evening. Imagine Jersey City as a game of Monopoly. The landlords are the players, the tenants are the tokens, and you, the council, are supposed to be the bankers, the rule enforcers. But in this game, some players get to ignore the rules. They don't pay rent when they land on properties. They collect $500 for passing go. And when they break the clearly written rules, the bankers say, that's okay, keep playing. That's what Director Richardson just did with our landlord. He saw the rule breaking, heard the admission of guilt, and still declared, game on. Council, you've heard our side 700 times. You've seen the evidence. You know the rules of the game. So why are you letting some players cheat while the rest of us face bankruptcy? In a closed society where everybody's guilty, the only crime is getting caught. Hunter Thompson once wrote, "Is that what Jersey City has become? A closed society where the only crime is not being powerful enough to avoid consequences?" It's time to flip the board. It's time to rewrite the rules so everyone plays fair. Because if you don't, this game of Monopoly will end the way it always does, with one winner and everyone else out in the cold. The choice is yours, Council. Be the bankers we need, or admit you're just another player in this rigged game. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.37, Shannon.
Good evening, council members. It is astounding to me and to my neighbors that we are 363 days after our determination from the Rent Leveling Board and not one thing has changed. Despite that fact, I refuse to be cynical and accept that equity is so rich, net worth of $20.2 billion with a B dollars, that they don't have to uphold the law. I refuse to live in that kind of world. The only way this sort of lazy complacency ever changes is if people use their voices and refuse to be ignored. We are the little guy, David to their Goliath. We are the factory line workers who rejected mistreatment and went on to form strong unions. We are the women who won the vote in the suffrage movement. You know us, City Council. You know we will never be convinced to be quiet and go away. A review of the facts. In order to legally raise rent, a landlord has to comply with clearly outlined regulations. We have tirelessly provided this council with example after example of violations of these regulations. Violations ranging from required safety information not provided, to expired certificates, to non-compliance with Ordinance 260 in virtually every aspect possible. They have never had a legal right to increase the rent, yet they have been allowed to do so for years and years, and not just here in Jersey. The lawsuits in DC and California are part of Equity's illustrious history. Tell me, what do you do when somebody breaks the rules and it negatively affects your life? What do you tell your children when someone wrongs them? Do you repeat what is being told to us, that sometimes offenders are too rich for rules? Do you repeat what is said to us in so many words that we should try to be nicer? I'll get incredibly personal and tell you that I used to believe being nice would change abusive behavior. I used to believe I deserved to be mistreated because I wasn't interesting enough or worthy enough or smart enough. I worked hard to change those things. And guess what? The abuse didn't stop. Do you want to know when it stopped? When I stopped believing that I was the problem. I got loud, I got firm, I got educated, and I got myself away from the abuse. I am not intimidated by money. I am not afraid of the truth. I don't know why equity is afraid of the truth. And why is this city letting them continue to abuse us? We've used this microphone as a megaphone to go through the proper channels to hold equity accountable. It doesn't seem to be on. Tell me, do you hear us? What kind of megaphone should we be using? Whatever it is, trust me, we'll find it.
Next speaker, 5.38, Michelle.
Good evening. Tonight I'll address tenant protections and the rule of law that has resulted in betrayal of public trust that demands immediate action. Director Chiron Richardson, entrusted with safeguarding our rent control ordinance, has instead engaged in a pattern of behavior demonstrating a willful miscarriage of justice. I witnessed his investigation of Equity Residential's properties firsthand. With my own ears, I heard him inform the property manager of Equity's non-compliance with our ordinance, yet inexplicably, his official report tells a starkly different tale. Richardson's approach in both his August 7th recalculations letter and his recent landlord identity findings exposes a deeply troubling pattern. He consistently prioritizes less stringent general provisions of Chapter 260 over the specific robust tenant protections in 260-3, which are specifically for buildings subject to rent control. We all know it's not a mere oversight, it's a calculated undermining of our ordinance's intent. His actions are akin to a traffic cop fussing over a driver's seatbelt while ignoring their 100-mile-an-hour speed through a school zone. He's cherry-picking minor provisions while turning a blind eye to flagrant systemic violations that jeopardize our citizens daily. The ramifications of this selective enforcement are potentially severe. Richardson's actions could constitute official misconduct, exposing him to criminal charges. Those who may have influenced this misrepresentation could face conspiracy charges. And moreover, the city itself stands vulnerable to liability for failing to enforce its own laws. I implore you, take immediate, decisive action to ensure our laws are enforced fairly, completely, and without bias. Launch a full, transparent investigation into this matter. Hold those responsible accountable, including Equity Residential. The erosion of integrity in our city government is maddening and dangerous. It's how corruption metastasizes, spreading from the mayor's office down through the entire hierarchy. To Director Richardson, I say this: you can do better. Don't allow yourself to be a pawn in this nefarious game. And to you, Council, I'm beyond weary of being told there's nothing you can do. It's time for someone to step up, be a whistleblower, and embody the public servant that you said you were going to be. We emphasize our legal team has provided detailed feedback on Richardson's findings. Ask for it and read it.
Our next speaker, 5.39, Jennifer. Thank you.
Who?
Gracie.
Sure, can I just pause for 1 second?
Sure.
This is more of a sort of statement for the record, but on the, one of the specific things that were brought up by the speakers from Portside was just the interpretation of 263J, which not just applies to Portside, but across the whole city. And we did a little bit of research into it and just a couple of the relevant state statutes, just to quote from them. One talks about which the landowner of the, or not the landowner, but the owner of the multi-dwelling building has a validated copy of their certificate of registration. It says, validated copy shall be posted by the owner of such hotel or multiple dwellings at all times in the lobby or other conspicuous place on the premises. And that has some other language about the manner in which it is posted, and then another section referring to some of the similar information. So it must be posted in at least one conspicuous area where the information is most likely to be viewed by tenants of a tenant occupied multiple dwelling, and then on the internet. So, I mean, I think that's pretty clear language, as well as the language about including it in leases, as well as the necessary information being updated given that we have fires and floods. I just got a report today of a water pipe burst in Liberty Towers as we're in the meeting. So it just seems that this is an important provision for the city to be enforcing in all buildings, and there's plain language. So obviously, I think, in the council, we're going to be interested in making sure that the plain language is interpreted as the plain language.
Okay, speaker 39 and 40 are not here. Speaker 5.41, Heather.
Council members and public. I'm Heather Sporn. I'm a board member of Sustainable Jersey City, and I'm their representative on the Shade Tree Committee. But today I'm speaking on behalf of Sustainable Jersey City and as a resident of Jersey City, and not as a Shade Tree Committee representative. I want to say that I'm talking about 321, the resolution on the model ordinance or adapting the amendment to chapter 321 to include provisions for reviewing removals of trees on private property. I would like to express first I want to say that SJC works hard to create a culture of awareness and support for the environment, working with protecting our green space, reducing heat island effect, and protecting trees, and educating the public about the importance of trees in an environment that is often harsh and devoid of green space. And we would like to help remedy this. And my intent was to express my support for this measure, but I understand that it has been tabled. I urge the council members to address this issue as soon as possible. We have to do a good job, a much better job at protecting our tree canopy and our groundwater and permeable surfaces and creating a more livable and sustainable city. I also want to mention that I want to express my gratitude to the Hudson County Tree Allies, and Danielle D'Adamo had earlier expressed her concerns, and we support everything she said. And we want to thank them for taking up this issue and bringing it to the city's attention. Just to keep in mind that our parcels are not 1 acre, which is called for in the DEP model ordinance. So we have very small parcels of, if, like in the Heights, it's 25 by 100 is a full lot, and very few of them are that big. So we just hope that this ordinance stays strong and really embraces really trying to support keeping as many trees as possible, and that we don't lose strength in making these modifications. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker, 5.42, Natalie.
Hello, I'm reading a group statement for the Hudson County Tree Allies. I will share some issues our group has with Chapter 321 for you to address. But while stating that, we do urge you to waste no time in adopting the DEP amendment that you postponed tonight. I also second all of the comments of Danielle D'Adamo tonight. She's another valued member of our group whose statements well represent our group's position about this amendment and was born out of many conversations that we've had together. So I fully support everything that was already stated. The second section of Chapter 321 recognizes that trees impact everything from public health to stormwater management to property values. So there should be mention of overarching tree canopy goals in the ordinance and forestry standards. Our friends at Sustainable Jersey City's 2020 tree inventory found that we have a very sad 10% canopy, that it shrunk by 6% over just a few years, and that these numbers are very low compared to other cities. This is disastrous in these warming times, which will worsen with current high-rise development from the heat island effect. Our group has formed due to a shared concern that our precious few mature trees, both street and private, are at risk amidst this development boom. Mature trees, as Danielle stated, are not quickly replaceable. New saplings take decades to begin providing the same amount of shade, habitat, and other functions of a mature tree. The City of Toronto performed a study that found that mature trees remove 90 times more carbon from the air and 10 times more air pollution. Every time we lose a mature tree, the community loses a high-value asset replaced by a very slow returning investment. The tree ordinance states that the preservation of existing trees promotes the health and welfare of the public, and the forestry standards has a very short list of circumstances that allows tree removal. But all of this is undermined by the language of 321-6, which allows for the removal of trees for the development of property or improvement of sidewalk in exchange for restitution or replacement. Over the summer, we lost an entire block of mature maple trees due to the West Side Square development on Broadway. We learned in recent years, or in previous years, a public hearing was required before 3 or more trees in the public right-of-way could be cut. Why was this taken out of the ordinance? While restitution money will be paid and new trees planted, canopy was lost that will take more than a decade to grow back. 321-6 must spell out a clear obligation to attempt to preserve trees when developing property or improving sidewalk. It should adopt the language of the 2023 County Executive Order for the removal of county trees, which states that the removal should be a last resort. Otherwise, a major developer like the one that we just saw for the West Side project can easily foot a $100,000 bill in restitution to replace an entire block of trees versus a greater expenditure that would be occurred if they were to design around them. So we want consideration to be given to mature trees from the very beginning of planning and approval stages, and we will lobby for these and other measures. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.43, Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert Fu, McGinley Square resident, also reading a statement from our new group, Hudson County Tree Allies. Our team started with residents of Jersey City and other Hudson County towns concerned with protecting trees, in particular from development. Our focus has expanded to acknowledge the fact that mature trees are threatened by more than private development. Our concern for mature trees goes for all trees, including street trees in front of residences and businesses, also includes large trees on private lots, with an emphasis on lots being cleared for large-scale development. Our first mission as a group is to influence city policies to provide additional protections and clearly identify large mature trees as high-value assets to be preserved at all costs. Our concern for mature trees on private property is shared by the NJDEP, which mandated last year that municipalities update their ordinances to deter property owners from removing them as part of stormwater management. The deadline to comply was May 30th, 2024. We're proud to say that it was our group that made the Shade Tree Committee aware of the new requirement when we attended our first committee meeting on June 17th. We know that some owners feel the requirement intrudes on property rights, but we need to recognize that a tree on one property benefits neighbors' properties, for example, helping prevent basement flooding. The role of trees in mitigating flooding is huge and has been measured. We urge the council to recognize this in the amendment. We've asked for a seat at the table to work with the Shade Tree Committee on amending the tree ordinance. We've also proposed other ideas like joining the many cities throughout the US and NJ that have nomination-based tree protection programs for landmark trees or historical trees, reflecting an understanding that the oldest or most unique trees are a city's living history and merit recognition like historic buildings. We had hoped that our suggestions, We had hoped that our suggestions and initial efforts to participate and be in conversation with the committee would be met with more enthusiasm and openness. However, we continue attending the committee meetings, are getting to know its members individually, and remain hopeful that we can make a difference. We asked the city council to encourage the Shade Tree Committee to work with us. In 2019, Councilwoman Mira Prinzeri told InsiderNJ.com that the Shade Tree Committee, quote, allows for greater cooperation between residents, environmental professionals, and city officials to make significant change in the city's tree canopy. Our group is eager to cooperate in this way, but requests meetings where there's opportunity for dialogue and not just the 3-minute rigid comment format. Thanks.
Our next speaker, 5.44, Osbert. I think he left. Next speaker, 5.45, Andrea. Is Andrea here? No. You. Next, 5.46, Hugh. Left. And 5.47, Musab. Not here. All right, that concludes our public speaking portion of the meeting. If I can just allow myself to get on camera, and before we move forward, Councilperson Gilmore, would you like to cast your vote on the introduction of the first readings, items 3.1 through 3.9, with the exception of 3.3, which has been withdrawn?
Oh, aye for introduction.
Thank you. So now items 3.1 through 3.9, with the exception of 3.3, which has been withdrawn, are introduced 7-0. We also defer to resolution 24-733. Would you like to cast your vote on that?
What number is it?
24-733, item 10.9.
Oh, recognizing the word, okay. Aye.
Thank you very much. Resolution 24-733 is now approved 7-0, with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. That catches you up, Councilperson Gilmore, and on to our petitions and communications. Any questions or comments on items 6.1 through 6.47? Hearing none, there are no officer communications. Any questions or comments on report of directors 8.1 through 8.10? On to our claims and addendums, number 1 and number 2. Council members be taking a vote on claims and addendums, number 1 and number 2. Councilperson Ridley. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
He stepped away.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Claims and addendums number 1 and number 2 are approved 6-0, with council members Solomon, DeGise, and Rivera absent. On to our resolutions. Items 10.1 through 10.15. Again, that's 10.1 through 10.15, with the exception of 10.9, which was approved earlier. Councilperson Ridley.
1 through 15. On 10.7, I just want to say congratulations again to Soaring Heights on their National Blue Ribbon Award, and I vote aye for all.
Thank you. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Gilmore. And Council President Waterman. Items 10.1 through 10.15 with the, before I do that, Council, he votes aye. Councilperson Solomon votes in the affirmative. So items 10.1 through 10.15, with the exception of 10.9, which is approved earlier, are approved 7-0, with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Before we move on to the rest of the resolutions, Councilperson Solomon, would you like to cast your vote on claims and addendums number 1 and number 2? Thank you very much. So now the recap that vote, claims and addendums number 1 and number 2 are approved 7-0, with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Okay, on to our next set of resolutions.
Hold on, Sean.
Sure.
Before we go, I know we said something about pulling the public safety items. The only thing is, I know at least one of them is a grant, and can anyone from legal or the BA's office confirm if this is a time-sensitive grant? Especially with regards to 1021? Because it's a grant.
Talk about 1024, Councilman?
No, 1021 is a grant. It looked like coming from the Justice Assistant Grant from the state program.
Hudson County
through
Prosecutor's
County
Office, the JAG.
Prosecutor's Office.
I'm not entirely sure if it is time sensitive.
What is, so is publics, are they coming back or?
This is an annual thing that we do every year. So this is come up every single year. It's more routine.
Well, we have other things from public safety on here as well. And I know that they were supposed to come. I don't know exactly what's going on. So, I mean, I just don't know what to do at this point. I mean, when they have items on the agenda, they have to come and speak. I mean, everybody have to come. A lot of people have recurring grants that's annually that, re-upped or reintroduced or whatever, and those directors come, or at the very least, send someone from the office. I'm quite sure, I mean, it's not that much work being done, is it?
There's a lot of work being done, Councilman, but I can ensure
That
in the
they
future.
can't come here?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a lot of work being done, but in the future, if you'd like someone, I can make sure someone's available to speak about them. But it looks like from what I can tell, these are all mostly grant related that are annual and repetitive. So I wouldn't want to potentially hold up any fund from the city in that case.
So you can confirm in the future that public safety will be here?
Yes.
No, you guys are the
You know
BA's
what it is
office.
though, Councilman, it's the BA responsibility to make sure his director.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have to like, they work under you. There's no request. You tell them to do their job.
Well, we will ask them to appear, Councilman.
Okay. The BA is responsible.
Okay, so on items 10.16 through 10.27, Councilmember Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary, Councilperson Baggiano, Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon, Councilperson Gilmore,
You said the 27?
10.16 to 10.27.
But I just really hope these guys show up, man. I would hate to vote to not receive these funds, but in the same breath, these guys receive more money than every department in the city, and they can't come for a council meeting. I'll vote aye.
Thank you. And Council President Waterman. Items 10.16 through 10.27 are approved 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. On to items 10.28 through 10.37. Again, that's 10.28 through 10.37. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Items 10.28 through 10.37 are approved 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. On to our next set of resolutions, items 10.38 through 10.49. Again, that's 10.38 through 10.49. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. I cannot hear you.
No on 47, aye on the rest.
No on 47
Yes.
and aye on the rest. Okay, Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Solomon. This is 10.38 to 10.49. I can't hear you.
No on 49, aye on the rest.
No on 49 and aye on the rest. Thank you. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Council President Waterman.
Abstain from 10.47 and aye on all the rest.
Okay. Items 10.38 through 10.46 are approved 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Item 10.47 is approved 5-1-1 with Councilperson Baggiano voting no and Council President abstaining. Item 10.48 is approved 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. Item 10.49 is approved 8-1. Councilperson Solomon voting no, and councilpersons DeGise and Rivera absent. For the balance of our resolutions, with the exception of 10.53, which I am assuming that the administration will be withdrawing since we did not act on the two ordinances that are mentioned in the 20-day waiver. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you so much. So with that being said, council members, on items 10.50 through 10.52, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prince Airy.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Resolutions 10.50 to 10.52 are approved 7-0 with council members DeGise and Rivera absent. May I have a motion
Oh,
to?
Sean, one more thing before we go. I just want the record to reflect, I haven't seen the actual report of Directors Richardson, findings of the towers. But I will say this, that I was down there a lot of times and recently, early as today, I did not witness any of the landlord disclosure forms hanging in this public area. In fact, even in the secured area behind I guess the glass office area they have over there, they did have one which was outdated. I just really hope that we can get control over this. I'm also thankful that the state, well, that's what they did have hanging up, that the state subsequently will be doing an inspection in or around the 22nd or 24th, and then on the 26th to the 28th or something like that. But I just really hope that if there is a report, that it reflects the current state of the building as it relates to these things that's supposed to be available for public consumption. And I guess on a further point, I don't know how we would rectify the issue of this document being provided to the tenants via a lease or when they sign a lease or something like that. I don't know how we will govern that actual process. But far as it hanging in the building for public consumption, I think that is well within the realm of possibility to make sure we're enforcing it from that perspective.
May I dare take a motion to adjourn at 9 p.m.
Motion. Oh, hold on.
I only held up once, so the motion was made by Councilperson Saleh, seconded by Council President Waterman. On the motion to adjourn at 9 p.m. All council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 9 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone in attendance and everyone watching at home. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night and stay safe.